Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Bachelor's Degree Program, Elective Course, Rural Development, BRDE 101 Rural Development, Indian Context, Block 4, State and Rural Development, Unit 5, Rural Development Administration. 5.0 Aims and Objectives. This unit intends to examine the significance of administrative setup for rural development in India. There are also attempts to evaluate and analyze the functioning of administrative structure in relation to existing political arrangements in the broader context of decentralization and rural development. After going through this unit, you will be able to understand significance of bureaucracy in developmental endeavor. Explain the functions of administration in the field of rural development. Explain changes in the administrative setup after the introduction of the Constitution, 73rd Amendment Act, 1992. Discuss rural development administration in the country at various levels, and underscore. Describe relationships between official functionaries and elected representatives. 5.1 Introduction. During colonial period, economic development of India was directly or indirectly linked with the interests of British government. Administrative setup and the changes introduced to govern rural areas were aimed to suit the desires/requirements of British government. Economic development of rural people was never a serious concern of the colonial ruler. However, from the very beginning a large number of organizations and institutions were contributing for this cause. From government side, a well-established organization known as bureaucracy was playing an important role in keeping unorganized masses in rural areas under control along with some developmental endeavor. The role of bureaucracy witnessed significant changes after independence, but it remained the key organization to aid development. But after independence, situation changed dramatically. Independence in India was accompanied by multi-dimensional socio-economic and political problems which are intensively realized by the people living in rural areas. Significance of rural development was realized for the development of the country by the independent Indian state. A number of programs were introduced to attain the objectives of rural development. Gradually it was realized that for the transformation and modernization of rural economy and society and the alleviation of poverty in the country, our plans, programs, strategies and approaches must be oriented toward integrated development of rural areas. For it, allocation of resources and their mobilization and the implementations of programs should be in tune to suit the felt needs of rural people and rural areas. Therefore, after independence, a hierarchical structure connecting the common line from the center to the state to the district to block and village was created. From time to time changes were introduced to make functioning of the administration very effective. But the administrative structure for the implementation of rural development programs after in passage of the Constitution 73rd Amendment Act 1992 has assumed special significance. In this unit, efforts will be made to familiarize you with the important features of existing organizational and administrative structure or rural development administration. 5.2 Significance of bureaucracy. The role of government after independence changed from self-interest and regulatory agency to that of being custodian of welfare and the well-being of its citizens. The state had adopted new goals and objectives. Correspondingly, the bureaucracy was now expected to work in the framework of democracy with the active involvement of the people for whose welfare it existed. In the rural context, it has assumed an even more significant role of a catalyst in the processes of social and economic transformation. It is faced with the challenges of undertaking social organizations of varied nature. It was the responsibility of bureaucracy of handle such organizations in rational way who have become the embodiment of the creating the processes by which major clusters of old social, economic and psychological commitments are eroded, or broken and preparing people for new patterns of socialization and behavior. In this broader perspective, the administration have to ensure that they elicit the support and widespread participation of the people for whom development programs are meant. This is essential because if the goals of agricultural and rural development are to be achieved, people should be involved to an extent that gives 60 them access to national economic, political and social systems. This giant structure of administration has been created to perform some routine functions like maintenance of law and order and revenue administration, etc. Barring these functions, administration is contributing significantly in the developmental activities, especially in rural development. Functions of administration. Some important functions related to rural development administration are as following. Selection of beneficiaries. Since most of programs aim at enabling the rural poor to rise above the poverty line once and forever, it is but natural the selection of beneficiaries constitutes an important function. In the present situation, functionaries of rural development administration have to facilitate elected functionaries of Gram Panchayats in the process of identification of genuine beneficiaries. 2. Preparation, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of village, block and districts plans. The erstwhile Ministry of Rural Development had recommended that at the district level, the planning and implementation agency should be the District Rural Development Agency, BRDE, usually district collector and chairperson. The BRDE is the overall in charge of planning, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of the programs in a district. 3. Provide expertise in the allocation of funds. This major function of administration facilitates the process of the funds allocation for implementation of various development programs and schemes at various levels. 4. Identification, formulation and implementation of projects. It means identification of technically feasible activities/enterprise which could be taken up in the area. Project formulation is a technical job involving the competence of the planning staff at all levels. Implementation of the project may be regarded as process by which a set of predetermined activities are carried out in a planned manner with a view to achieve certain established objectives. Monitoring and evaluation of programs and schemes. It is to ensure the success and effective utilization of resources made available to various programs related to rural development. After independence, 3 decades of planned development witnessed significant changes in the administrative setup at the district level and below. It was the Grow More Food Inquiry Committee which stressed the need for an integrated organizational structure for rural development. On the basis of the recommendations, this committee, a development block comprising of 100 to 120 villages under the charge of block development officer assisted by technical officers in the disciplines such as agriculture, animal husbandry, cooperation and engineering was established. There was provision of a village-level worker for every 5 to 10 villages. The recommendations were made by that committee for integrated structure at the district level under the collector and at the state level under development commissioner, to be supervised and advised by a cabinet committee headed by the chief minister. By the early 70s, it was seriously realized that there is the need to take special measures for the benefit of the poor sections of the population and for the development of backward and disadvantaged areas. The launching of some of these programs like SFDA/MPHAL etc. was accompanied by the creation of new programs which often overlapped, and some of them even strengthened the tendency for independent line of functioning as opposed to integration. The 7th plan document had visualized these problems. It was felt that there is need to re-examine the whole structure to simplify, rationalize and reduce duplication and to ensure adequate horizontal coordination at local levels. Emphasis was laid on it, not merely to reduce the burden of expenditure but to improve the performance, ensure accountability and make the system more comprehensible to the common man, who is expected to get the benefits from these programs/schemes. Thus, the 7th plan lays considerable emphasis on decentralized planning. 5.4 Administrative setup for rural development at various levels. The Ministry of Rural Reconstruction was constituted by the Government of India in 1979. In 1982 it was renamed as Ministry of Rural Development as a department under the Ministry of Agriculture. In March 1995 it was renamed as Ministry of Rural Areas and Employment. Since April 1999, it is being called the Ministry of Rural Development. 5.4.1 National Level. At present Ministry of Rural Development has 2 departments. Each department has a number of divisions on functional basis. The divisions under the departments of the Ministry of Rural Development are as following. A. Department of Rural Development. I. Administrative and Panchayati Raj Division. 2. Poverty Alleviation Division. 3. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana Division. 4. Rural Connectivity Division. V. Land Resources Division. Y. Monitoring Division. 7. Finance Division. B. Department of Drinking Water Supply. 1. Drinking Water Supply Division. 2. Rural Sanitation Division. All the divisions in the ministry are headed by a joint secretary-level officer and assisted by other administrative supporting and technical staff. The Ministry of Rural Development is overall responsible for the policies, planning direction, coordination, release of central share of funds and monitoring of the programs. Ministry of Rural Development has 2 institutions, the National Institute of Rural Development, an autonomous body and Council for Advancement of People's Action and Rural Technology, CAPAT, a registered society under its administrative control. 5.4.2 State Level. It is the responsibility of the state governments to administer all the programs implemented in its jurisdiction, including programs related to rural development. Almost all the states have separate Department of Rural Development headed by a secretary. Above him is the Development Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development. In some states it is Chief Secretary who has been designated as the Development Commissioner cum Secretary, who is in charge of all the development works under the supervision of the Development Committee, usually chaired by the Chief Minister. In most of the states, either the Department of Planning or Department of Rural Development is responsible for policy planning, implementation, supervision, coordination of rural development programs. The Coordination Committee chaired by the Chief Secretary/Agricultural Production Commissioner/Principal Secretary reviews, sanctions, coordinate, monitors and evaluate all the schemes. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU.
5.4.3 District Level. The basic unit of administration in India is the district, and head of the district administration is the district collector. At the district level, the development function has been clubbed with the revenue function in one office under the district collector. This practice is prevalent from the early stages of planning, when district collector was made head of the community development program. The collector used to coordinate district plans and preside over the district planning committee. This committee was consisted of official and non-official members assisted by the district planning officer. During 4th 5-year plan, 1969-74, significant changes were introduced at the district level during this period. Small Farmers Development Agencies, SFDA, and Marginal Farmers and Agricultural Labourers Development Agencies, MFAL, were set up on the recommendation of the All India Rural Credit Review Committee appointed by the Reserve Bank of India in 1969. Its objective was to provide credit support and technical guidance to the small farmers. A coordination committee was constituted in each district under the chairmanship of the district collector to coordinate the activities of all departments. A major step was taken with the amalgamation of the different agencies existing hitherto for different programs into a single district rural development agency. Thus, existing DRDAs were given new shape. This new DRDA was created in areas where no agencies existed earlier. This DRDA has been made responsible for the implementation of the IRDP, TRISM, NREP/RELAGP, DPAP, DDP along with the programs aimed to assist small and marginal farmers. A staffing pattern has been laid down for the DADAs, and up to 10% of the IRDP outlays per district can be spent on the establishment expenses. Over and above the 2 to 3 APOs provided in earlier SFDAs, the provision has been made for an economist/statistician, credit planning officer and rural industries officer who are together set to constitute planning team of BRDE. Here it would be pertinent to mention that there were 2 other schemes to provide staff in the institutional support at the district levels, which is a. The Planning Commission formulated scheme, to provide a planning team at the district level comprising a chief planning officer and 5 other experts in different disciplines including one for specific programs, and b. District Manpower Planning and Employment Generation Council, DMPECs, have been set up for work relating to district employment, budgeting, identification of opportunities for self-employment and providing assistance to work seekers. But it has a major drawback, because the relationships of both the schemes with BRDE were not defined. The erstwhile Ministry of Rural Development had recommended that at the district level, the Planning and Implementation Agency should be the BRDE. It will be headed by the District Collector/Magistrate or the Deputy Commissioner and by a financial executive as the Project Director/Project Officer. Thus, BRDE became the overall in charge of planning, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of the rural development programs in a district. Functions of District Rural Development Agency, BRDE. Major functions of BRDE are as following. To provide information regarding the parameters, dimensions and requirements of the program. To coordinate and oversee the survey and preparation of the perspective plan and annual plans of the block and finally prepare a district plan. To evaluate and monitor the development programs to ensure their effectiveness. To ensure intersectoral monitoring, interdepartmental coordination and cooperation. To publicize the achievements made under program, _. To disseminate knowledge and create awareness about the program, and to send periodic returns to the state governments in prescribed formats. Composition of District Rural Development Agencies. The governing body of the BRDE includes 1. I. District Collector as Chairman. 2. All MPs and MLAs of the districts. 3. Head of the Central Cooperative Bank. 4. Chairman of the Regional Rural Bank. V. Chairman of Zilla Parishad or his/her representative. Y. An officer of the lead bank. 7. District Employment Officer, and 8. One representative of rural women, preferably beneficiary. 5.4.4 Block and village levels. The development block was created as the basic unit of planning and integrated rural development comprising agriculture and allied activities under Community Development Program. It included education, health, social welfare etc. with emphasis on self-help and people's participation. A central scheme for strengthening of staff in operation generally aims to restore the earlier staffing pattern by filling up the gaps created by transfer of extension officers VLWs to line departments, with provision for an additional post of an extension officer. The block administration was headed of a block-level officer known as Block Development Officer, BD0. He was assisted by 8 extension personnel representing agriculture, animal husbandry, cooperation, social welfare, irrigation etc. Village-level worker also called Gram Sevaks/Sevikas and some auxiliary staff. Provision was made for the constitution of Block Advisory Committee to secure proper support for the programs. With the passage of time it was realized that Block Advisory Committee is not functioning properly. The major factor responsible for it was that it was not directly responsible for the development work. The review of various programs indicated that while efforts have been made to strengthen the delivery mechanism for rural development programs, the earlier tendency to have program-wise staff continues on larger scale than earlier. The quantification of the provision for staff provided in this way may indeed show staggering results. Moreover, in such a situation, there is every possibility of rising in administrative costs, while vital gaps may still remain and there may be substantial element of overlap and duplication instead of integration in the total system. There were several deficiencies noticed at the district level. At the block level also there were some major deficiencies. As already indicated, there was a major problem of the BU no longer having effective control over the extension officers because of latter's own line of hierarchies. Thus, the earlier concepts of community development has over the years got fragmented into several independent components and special programs which do not automatically fit into an integrated rural development framework. Further, while high amount of resources flowing into the rural areas, structural weakness come in the way of productive utilization. A number of evaluation studies have also highlighted the administration and other constraints in the implementation of rural development programs at block level. During 60s the programs like SFDA and MFL were implemented at the block level with same structural mechanism. BRDE used to implement all the programs and schemes in the blocks headed by the block development officers. Besides BDO, other block functionaries were involved in the implementation of programs, but in those states which have adopted the training and visit system to extension in agriculture, extension handled directly by the staff of the Department of Agriculture, the Agriculture Extension Officer, and 70 to 80% of village level workers were taken away from the block establishment. Consequently, block establishments were left with few staff. It had weakened the block administration considerably. The block-level review of development programs conducted was done in the chairmanship of BU in a meeting of village-level workers and other staff members. The review of all the activities of the block is done on quarterly basis in the meeting of Panchayat Samiti under the chairmanship of its Pradhan known as Block Pramukh and BD0 as the member secretary. Check your progress. 1. Describe the composition of BRDE. 1. District Planning Committee, DPC. According to Article 243, ZD, of the Constitution, 74th Amendment, Act, the states are required to constitute district planning committees to facilitate the process of decentralized planning. DPCs were set up accordingly in each district. Its primary responsibility is to prepare a composite plan covering both rural and urban areas through effective coordination between urban civic and development bodies for the urban segment and the Panchayati Raj institution for rural areas. Each chairperson of the Zilla Parishad is the chairman of District Planning Committee. A core planning team comprising experts from various disciplines facilitate the preparation of plans at district level. It is expected that the team will prepare plans after through mapping of the physical and natural resources, endowments, existing and missing infrastructure in relation to the felt needs, convergence potential of the ongoing scheme and the available and additional resources required. 2. Grand Panchayats. Grand Panchayats are third tier of Panchayati Raj institutions. It has been charged with the responsibility to identify and polarize developmental schemes and prepare action plans related to it. Even though Gram Panchayat is a representative body, but in the Constitution, provisions have been made for creating a body called Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha is defined as a body consisting of persons registered as voter in the electoral rolls relating to an area of village panchayat. Thus, it may be called an assembly of all the citizens of a village who have right to vote. Some state panchayat acts provide the provision for participation of persons who are not even members of the Gram Sabha. These are the officials of the panchayat. However, these officials have no right to vote. 5.6 Evaluation of existing arrangements. In the present constitutional framework, Gram Sabha is expected to perform several functions. Some major functions are to ensure accountability of Grand Panchayat. 2. To identify eligible person from the Panchayat area for different beneficiary-oriented schemes. 3. To determine the priority of the schemes for the area IV. To review the work of Gram Panchayat V. To conduct social audit of Gram Panchayat. But it has been observed that the effectiveness of the Gram Sabha is very rare. In most of the cases, the head of panchayats are reluctant to call the meetings of Gram Sabha or local elites dominate the proceedings. In many places sufficient powers and responsibilities have not yet been devolved to the Grand Panchayats. Therefore, villagers do not consider the village panchayat as an effective institution to respond to their problems. On many places the factionalism in village politics contributes towards making Grand Panchayat ineffective. Therefore, Serious attention is required for the strengthening of the quality of Panchayati Raj institutions. 5.7 Relationship between officials and elected functionaries. In the recent years, the process decentralization has created an environment that the people's representatives or elected functionaries of Panchayati Raj should walk hand in glove with the administrative functionaries at all level of development administration. The idea behind such perception is that it is necessary to bring about certain amount of realism in plan formulation and implementation, and by the virtue of the acumen gained by the aid for administrative functionaries over the years, the needs of the people could be converted into a plan of action. We have acquainted you about the process of decentralization in the context of Panchayati Raj. This process of decentralization has gained sufficient strength after the implementation of provisions of the Constitution, 73rd Amendment, Act, 1992. Now elected functionaries of Panchayati Raj institutions are playing key role in the planning, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of all the programs related to the development of rural people and rural areas. Now we will acquire you with the nature of administrative setup made available to Panchayati Raj institution. It will provide you an idea that how administration and elected functionaries have to work in coordination with each other. 5.7.1 Nature of administrative setup under pre. Among all the tiers, villages Panchayat through very significant but the most neglected one. There is no single full-time employee at any village Panchayat. There is only one serving secretary who used to serve a number of panchayats. With the devolution of power, many important functions have been assigned to village panchayats. This kind of administrative setup is total 11y unacceptable. The intermediate tier is served by the staff of the development block. Block staffs are the government officials. They are not deputed to panchayat body, therefore, they do not have any obligation or accountability towards panchayats. Thus, under this arrangement it is not possible for elected functionaries to have an effective control over them. At district level, Zilla Parishad, the administrative setup is uneven. Some of them are well staffed but some are not. Many of them have senior positions like Chief Executive Officer, Executive Engineer, Accounts Officer etc. filled on deputation basis. Junior positions are filled by direct recruitment. Thus, we can conclude that Panchayati Raj institutions are not having personnel system of their own. It has to depend generally on the infrastructure provided by the government. In such a delicate situation, coordination in effective way between administrative setup and elected functionaries may not be taken for granted. Now emphasis will be laid on the prevalent relationship. 5.7.2 The relationship between political and administrative functionaries. Political FW functionaries like ministers in the states, member parliament, members of legislative assemblies, chairpersons of Zilla Parishad, block pramukhs and generally acquire these positions because of their strong socio-economic and political background and affiliation of political parties. These political leaders have the tendency to influence the development process in favor of their own people. In such a situation, administrative staff either find himself helpless or prone to adopt corrupt practices. For development plans and schemes, huge resources have been allocated by the governments. Members of parliament and state legislatures have crores of money to develop their own constituencies. Various studies revealed the nexus between leaders and administration in the implementations of the development programs. There is general clash of perception between the administrative functionaries and people's representative. Bureaucrats think that people's representatives are not competent enough to propose, while people's representative feels that he is true and only representative of people and knows their problem better than bureaucrats. Check your progress. 2. 1. Describe composition of district planning committee. 2. Describe relationship between administrative and political functionaries in the context of rural development. 5.8 Let us sum up. The pace and process of development are far from satisfactory in substance, quality and quantity. Meanwhile, efforts have been made to redesign institutions to tackle the onslaught of poverty and unemployment. Political institutions were democratized and decentralized to increase people's participation in development. In this direction, efforts were made to acquaint you with the administrative setup meant for rural development. Efforts have been made to familiarize you with possible relations between Rural Development Administration and elect BRI functionaries. 5.9 Keywords. Bureaucracy officials appointed by the government mainly for the purposes of administration. Horizontal integration. Integration of the functionaries at the same level, such as within the block or grassroots levels. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.